statement. I'm very concerned about the emails and the disclosure between some of the world's leading climate scientists. Administrator Jackson, these are not the run-of-the-mill scientists. In fact, according to a memo from the Congressional Research Service sent to my staff this morning, Phil Jones, who announced he was stepping down yesterday as a part of the investigation, was the lead author of the IPCC Science Working Group. And according to the Congressional Research Service, the Climate Research Unit, the CRU that we've been referring to from the University of East Anglia, where Phil Jones was director, is the world-renowned Climate Research Center. I think everyone has stipulated to that. I'm sure some of these emails were troubling to you. And by the way, I appreciate, Madam Chairman, your willingness to get in and look at these emails and make a determination as to what you think the proper action would be. But as I look at these emails, one of them, I'm quoting from it right now, the two M's. Now, the two M's are referring to McKittrick and McIntyre. We're all familiar with them. They're scientists from Canada. The two M's have been after the CRU station data for years. If they ever hear there is a Freedom of Information Act in the UK, I think I'll delete the file rather than send it to anyone. This is Phil Jones. That was his email. So please don't pass this along to others. In other words, disclose, hide this. Cover up. Cover up is the word. Please don't pass this along to others without checking with me first. This sort of dirty laundry one doesn't want to fall into the hands of those who might potentially try to distort things. Now, that was Michael Mann. We all remember Michael Mann from the very beginning of this. In fact, I remember back during the early Kyoto days, it was his hockey stick that started this whole thing, which has been pretty much refuted in terms of science many, many years ago. Now, I could go on, but let me get to the question. Just this morning in a House climate hearing, President Obama's scientific advisor, Dr. John Holden, said he did not think that Congress needed to investigate this. His reason, he said, the scientific process would work itself out. Now, excuse me, that's interesting to me because if these emails show anything, they show scientists obstructing the scientific process. They show scientists refusing to turn over their data so other scientists could reproduce it. That's an essential step in the scientific process. These scientists didn't want the scientific process to work. So my concern is, first of all, I just ask you, are you interested as to whether or not you agree with Dr. Holdren in his response to these questions? Is an investigation not warranted because the scientific process will work itself out? That was his position.
Dr. Holdren has probably spent more time thinking about that aspect of this issue than I have. From my perspective, I have been focused on the science that undergirds EPA's regulatory actions to date, and you're very familiar with them, Senator. And my ear is to the ground for any information that comes to light at any time, whether it's a result of this email issue or otherwise, that causes me to believe that the overwhelming consensus has changed. And while I would absolutely agree that these emails show a lack of interpersonal skills, as I would say to my kids, be careful what you write, and maybe more, I have not heard anything that causes me to believe that that overwhelming consensus that climate change is happening and that man-made emissions are contributing to it have changed.
Yeah, even though these scientists were the lead scientists, everyone agrees that the CRU of East Anglia was certainly at the very top of this, and the IPCC relied upon these lead scientists. It's interesting, the matter that is submitted for the record is dated the 21st of October, before any of this happened. And I would strongly suspect that these organizations relied on the science of the IPCC. That's what's called into question. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up with you is we're in the process of pursuing an endangerment finding right now. And the endangerment finding, according to almost everyone, including you, is based on the information given by the IPCC. So I would say that if we agree with Dr. Holdren that the science will work itself out, that we should suspend any further activity in the endangerment finding until the science is worked out. Would you agree with that?
Senator, I believe that what we should be looking for are any changes in the consensus opinion of scientists around the world about climate change, about man's contribution to it. And when it comes to the endangerment finding, you know quite well that that goes to whether greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. And so it is EPA's obligation, it is my job to keep ear to the ground on that issue as far as how the science impacts our regulatory decision, and I am committed to doing that.
Well, let me ask you one other question. I know my time is running out here, but many of the individuals on the other side of this issue, on the alarmist side, like George Monbloy with The Guardian, he said, and this is a quote, I think it was just yesterday, he said, pretending that this isn't a real crisis isn't going to make it go away. And he goes on to talk about these things that have got to be looked at. Quote, I think it was just... Quote, I think it was just... Quote, I think it was just... He said, pretend that this isn't... That this isn't... Real crisis. Real crisis isn't going to make go away. He goes on to talk about these things they have got to be looked at. Quote, I think it was just he said pretend that this isn't real crisis isn't going to make go away.